provided a copy of the PowerPoint presentation, the DDA LISS Service and Eligibility Guide for fiscal 23, and several other documents we thought would be useful for LISS in our chat room. You can also go to our MCC website and download necessary LISS forms. This webinar will be in listening mode. If you have any questions, you can type them in our chat box and we will pull up your screen and assist with any questions you may have. By attending this LISS webinar, it is our goal that you will be obtaining valuable information and turning in a foolproof LISS application with all the necessary documentation. I would like to introduce to you Mrs. Coates, our Executive Director that will be hosting our LISS webinar.
Good morning, everyone. I want to thank you for joining. I am thrilled to be assisting you with this LISS webinar to help you navigate through the LISS program. Next one. Maryland Community Connection is a nonprofit organization that was created by Kimberly Snyder and myself 21 years ago to help individuals with disabilities achieve a greater degree of social and economic independence and become integrated into our community. Maryland Community Connection's administrative office is located in Prince George County. We currently serve over 2,000 individuals with disabilities in Maryland under our supportive employment program, our family and individual support services, Division of Rehabilitation, our summer employment youth program, and of course, the LISS program, low intensity services. Maryland Community Connection is the State of Maryland Developmental Disabilities Administration LISS provider for the Southern and the Eastern Shore. And so we currently serve 16 counties. If you live outside of the Eastern or the Southern region, we still recommend that you listen to this webinar since the LISS program is statewide. The information is virtually the same. You just need to utilize the LISS provider that represents your region. Since July 1st, 2022, Maryland Community Connection has received 1,516 LISS requests for round 1, and round 2, we have received over 1,450 LISS requests from families in the Southern and Eastern region alone. We know that LISS services has changed every year, and so getting the most current information to the individuals is important. So we encourage you to go to DDA and Maryland's Community Connections website, join us on our Facebook to find the most important and updated information about LISS. In order to help tailor this event, I'm going to put out a poll, and it'll be asking you a couple questions. And so if you could respond. And can everyone see the poll? Yep, it's coming in. Fantastic. All right, I'm going to stop it and share. And so it looks like most of the attendees are LISS family members, and we have some coordinators, no businesses, and state employees. So thank you for sharing that. And then I have, let's have one more poll. And if you could check what best describe you and how you have used LISS. And so if we're a first timer, we've used LISS but wasn't approved, and we used LISS and received funding in the past. All right, so I'm going to end our poll. And so I would say the majority of the attendees are first timers. Great. And then we had some people that had applied for LISS but wasn't approved, and we definitely will go over that. And then we have some people that have received LISS in the past. All righty, so that's really helpful. So we could go to the next page. And so the low intensity support services program is currently under DDA. And so DDA stands for the Developmental Disabilities Administration. And for a lot of families, this may be the first time that they're hearing about DDA, and they never applied for DDA. And so one of the programs that they have is the LISS program. And so this is where they have families are able to access up to $2,000 worth of resources in order to assist an individual with the developmental disabilities. And there are two agencies in the state of Maryland that is authorized to provide LISS. One is PENMAR, which serves our central and western region. And secondly is Maryland Community Connection, which serves our southern and eastern region. So based on where you live is which LISS provider you will use. The LISS funding for FY23 can be used for approvable services that starts all the way back from July the 1st, 2022, and it ends June 30th, 2023, except for official camps, which ends August the 31st, 2023. LISS is divided into two rounds. So dates of services can be used for both rounds. So to clarify, if we have families that were selected in round 2, they still can put in for payment of services all the way back from July the 1st, 2022. Those that are interested in LISS for upcoming FY 2024, DDA is scheduled to open up round 1 on May the 1st, 2023 to apply for the LISS random drawing. So if you're receiving services now for LISS, you get ready to apply for FY23, you still can apply when FY24 opens. And so then again, I encourage you to follow us on Facebook, where you'll see all the updates in reference to LISS. Next. So first I want to thank the DDA for this partnership with LISS. For the past 12 years, DDA has been instrumental in providing children and adults with developmental or intellectual disabilities and their families in providing services and assisting them and in promoting quality of life. Even though LISS is a DDA program, you do not have to apply for DDA services in order to receive the pool of LISS fundings. Again, you do not have to apply for DDA services in order to access the LISS program. But I'm going to say, please be aware that the state of Maryland plans funding for about 5 years in advance. So I encourage our families to submit a DDA application based on the county you live in. It is critical when the state is planning for future services, DDA will know who the individual is, what the disability, what the support that they may need in order to be considered for additional funds. DDA is divided into 4 regions. So when you apply, make sure you apply to the correct region based on where you live. We provide services for the Eastern and the Southern region, and so you can still be a part of this session to obtain information. Can we go to the next page? So with round 2 for LISS, if you went through the random selection process, you received 1 of 3 letters. First one was, congratulations, your loved one was selected. Please turn in the necessary documents by the deadline of February the 24th. And so that's one letter you may have received, and most families wish that they received the first one. The second letter a family member may have received was, your loved one was not selected. And so I'm going to tell you, don't give up. What that means is your child is on the wait list. So if LISS funds become available, MCC will send you a letter notifying you to submit your documents. Please, we cannot accept calls or emails about updating the status or where your child is at on the wait list. You're going to have to wait until you get your letter. The third letter a family could receive is that you will receive an automatic denial letter because your child is already in the waiver, or your child is already receiving DDA services, or may not have qualified for a developmental or intellectual disability. And so those are the letters that have already went out to the families, which you should have received in January. Being selected for the random selection is your first step. It doesn't guarantee that you will receive LISS. It is steps for finalization that must be included. The LISS staff will determine if the person is eligible. They will determine if all the necessary documents were turned in by the deadline. And so families received a deadline of February the 27th. If you miss your deadline and your case will be closed, what will happen is you still have an opportunity to turn in stuff. We won't grant you extension, but what we will do is once you turn in all the necessary documents, we will have the case reopened to assess whether we could process the LISS request, because it is based on if funding is still available. Families that have applied in round 1 and that was selected we are still processing those requests. If those families didn't turn in all their missing documents, they still have an opportunity to turn it in, and we can see about reopening the case. If any family name that was not selected, you are on the wait list. And so the deadlines to turn in stuff may be limited, where families from round 1 and round 2 had a particular deadline. As close as we get to the end of the fiscal year, which is June 30th, that deadline becomes shorter and shorter. Next page. So let's talk about who is eligible for LISS. LISS does not serve all disabilities. The individual must have a primary diagnosis of an intellectual or developmental disability. The individual can be approved and on DDA's wait list, and so they may only be receiving coordination services. If they are enrolled in the Maryland Model Waiver or the RIM program, they can also apply for LISS. Next page. So who's not eligible? If your loved one is currently receiving any DDA services other than CCS, that's the coordination only. For example, you'll be receiving vocational service, residential, personal supports. And the theory is, if you're receiving a piece of the pie from DDA, you cannot access the LISS funding because it's only $2,000. They want to give this funding to families that may be on the wait list or not receiving any services whatsoever. So if you're already receiving services, you would need to go back to your loved one's coordinator and request the services that you're looking for DDA. If you're currently in any of these waivers, Maryland Medicaid Home and community-based waiver, DDA community pathway, family supports, community supports, older adults, or the autism waiver, you cannot access LISS funds. If you also received LISS funds in round 1 of the same fiscal year, you cannot access additional LISS funds in round 2. Even if you didn't use the maximum $2,000 award, if you receive $1 in round 1, you cannot receive any funds for round 2. And so families that were selected in round 1 and then they applied in round 2, which was acceptable, but once you got funding in round 1, you will receive a denial letter for round 2. Next page. So let's talk about the documents that need to be turned in. So for whatever you apply for is certain mandated documents that are required. And so the first document is proof of identity. The proof of the applicant identified must contain the applicant's first and last name without any initials or nicknames. All we need is one copy of the following acceptable documents. So please don't try to turn in all the sample items. Make sure you turn in information for the LISS applicant. We receive many items from parents that including on the application. So just remember, when we're requesting documents, it's for the individuals with disability. So you can choose one of the following: the Social Security card, the birth certificate, the passport, if they have a military ID, a driver's license or identification card, any one of those. So don't send several, just send one of those items for your loved one. Now, please note, parents or legal guardian of the underage applicant, they must also show proof of identity, which is the driver's license, identification card, or a valid military ID. So that's the first document that must be turned in. Next one is proof of residence. And so you have to submit one of the following documents. And so a current household utility bill. And so that has to be a water, gas, or electric. No credit card, cell phone, cable bills, water, gas, or electric. You can turn in a lease, or you can turn in your mortgage statement or proof of home ownership. one of these three items are acceptable to turn in. So DDA has added where they're aware that sometimes a person may be living with someone else. And so if that is the case, the parent can request a letter from that person saying that they are the renter or the homeowner of the property, and then they have to turn in one of those three items. So if you're not the renter or the homeowner, the family member, you will have that person turn it in on your behalf. The next page. The next document that has to be turned in, no matter what you're requesting, is proof of developmental or intellectual disability. And so one of the documents could be written by a licensed medical or mental health professional, and it has to have the diagnosis. We are getting letters saying that this child qualifies for LISS. And so that is not proof of developmental or intellectual disability. They can submit what the disability is, but they cannot submit and say that they just qualify for the program. The next thing we can you could submit is your child's IEP. And so the IEP needs to be within 3 years, and it must have the official diagnosis. And usually that's on the first page. And then it must also be a provable IEP, which is usually at the upper right part on the first page. Now, sometimes the school will put other health impairments, which is a school terminology. If that is in there, that doesn't show proof of a disability, because we have to have the official diagnosis. And so we will ask for other documentation. The third thing you can turn in is your DDA letter, which says that your child was on a wait list or on the wait list for services or support service status. And so if you turn in a copy of that, that is what will be acceptable. Now, please note, remember we said all disabilities may not qualify for LISS. So if your child has a learning disability or ADHD diagnosis by itself, we may not meet the qualifications. If your child has a developmentally delayed diagnosis and is over 9, may not meet the qualifications, and we will ask to submit more documents. So next page. Starting fiscal year 21, DDA has implemented a new form called the attestation form. It's a 2-page form that must be completed. If we do not receive that is signed and dated and turned, both pages turned in, your LISS request can't be approved. So it's 4 documents that must be turned in no matter what you request. Next page. All right, so this is our frequently asked question. What could I obtain through the LISS program? So we're going to be reviewing different services LISS funds. As you can see, LISS covers a wide array of stuff. All your items that could be approved by LISS is going to be in the guidebook. The guidebook is on our Facebook, where you can download it and see all the items and what you can request what documents you need to turn in. So what we're going to do is actually go to the guidebook. And so if she's going to stop sharing, and let me see about I'm going to go to our website. So can everyone see the our website? All right, so this is how our website comes up. You will go to the LISS category, and we have all our forms in here that you could use, the application. And so let's see. This is the guidebook section. It comes in English and Spanish. We will go to the English version this year. And so when it pulls up, it looks like this. And so we're in fiscal year 23. And so a whole bunch of information is in the guidebook. Is 33 pages. Some of the stuff that I already went over is in here. It has PMAW information. So if you're in another county, and then if you're with Maryland Community Connection County, it tells you the documents that were needed, proof of identity, copy of one. So the things I just went over with you is also in the guidebook. And so we're going to go. The first thing you can purchase is an adaptive item. DDA will give a definition, and they will give you some examples. If you're doing adaptive specialized equipment, definition, and then some examples. You would notice that under required documents for adaptive items, excluding clothes, what you would need. And so the first thing they say is an invoice. And so families will get a little nervous when they see the word invoices. And I would say, let Google be your best friend and Google adaptive items and pull that up. You will put the items that you want in your shopping cart. Go to the payment section. Instead of hitting and putting in payment information, we are asking you to hit print. That becomes your invoice. So you can go online, put in adaptive items. Now, it has to be adaptive. It can't be just a stroller. It has to be an adaptive item. The next thing you would need is a letter of recommendation that needs to be filled out by a Maryland licensed medical or mental health. So families cannot fill this out. You can get this form on our website, but it has to be filled out by a Maryland licensed medical or mental health professional. And then the next document you need is a W-9. Now, the good thing, I'm going to say, let me take the tip on this. If you order something online, Apple or Amazon, you do not need a W-9. However, if you go to a building, say in Maryland, DC, and Virginia, you're going to need a W-9. So if it's an online product, you do not need it. So you would need two documents, the invoice, which is your shopping cart, and then your letter of recommendations. Adaptive clothing. And so we do get a lot of requests. And so in the past, DDA had been lenient in this category. However, they want to make sure the request you need is adaptive. And so they say adaptive meaning modified, altered, or tailored to meet the personal care needs of the individual. And so you just can't Google and go and get a regular pair of shoes that anybody could get. It must be an altered item. And so that shopping cart should show that this is item. Now, they give you some examples. So you see soft, tagless, seamless, zippers. And so families will go down to this, the example, before they met the definition requirement. So you got to meet the definition requirement first, because I had someone put in for whole bunch of men pants. Well, the reality is most men pants will have zippers. And so you can't say, well, it got zippers, and so it's adaptive. The item must say it's adaptive first. So make sure you Google adaptive items and go into that area. Most people will be surprised of how much stuff comes up. Tommy Hilfiger has an adaptive site for his clothing line. And so when you print it out, it will show that it is an adaptive item. The required documents for clothes or shoes for adaptive items is the invoice, the W-9. Now remember, if you're ordering online, we don't need a W-9, and then a letter of recommendation. Another item a family could purchase or have us purchase, is assistive technology category. And so we have your definition, we have examples, we purchase computers, iPads, headphones, educational software, printers. And so this is where you may go to Apple or Macs and put in all what you want. I tell families, know your child. And so if you need a warranty, if you need a hardcover case, put those items in. We will not be able to add those items for you. And so you have to submit the invoice. And so required documents for assistive technology is so easy. The invoice, which is your shopping cart. You will print out your shopping cart. Do not pay for it. You send it to us and we pay for it and have it delivered to your home. And then a W-9. The W-9, remember, is not necessary if it's an online business. Some of the other things families could purchase or put in for LISS is attended care. And so this category, I really love where DDA has been flexible. And so this is where families get to choose who will be working with their loved one. And so if you are not the parent or legal guardian or financially responsible for that person, you could apply for LISS. In this category. We will not pay the vendors if you are the parent or the legal guardian or the financially responsible person. And so if you want to have the neighbor be the attended guardian, DDA has been open to that. It used to be, it had to be an agency to provide their services. Now, families get to pick who will be caring for their loved ones. And so it could be grandma, it could be auntie, it could be the neighbor, it could be whoever you want. However, it is required documents. So we would need an invoice. If you use a licensed person, then we need that information. If you're not using a licensed person, such as auntie or the neighbor or grandma, they can become an independent contractor, and it's a form that's on our website that they complete. They turn in their driver's license, the independent contractor application and a copy of their social security card. They must fill out a W-9. So these is what the requirement is for when you're selecting someone to provide care for your child. Under this category, you can also do child care. Now, the child care is for individuals 21 and under, and it's a licensed provider. And so if you don't have a licensed child care provider, go back to, remember, you're going to use the attendant care. The attendant care person does not have to be licensed. It's who you select. And then the category also has respite. The only caveat for respite is the LISS program cannot approve for more than 45 days or 1,080 hours. And so I just tell people, don't even bother about using respite or categorize it under respite. Keep it under attended care. We don't have to track hours and we don't have to track days. So that just makes it more simple. Some other items that could be purchased that's in the guidebook is educational services and training support, advocacy, tutoring, and tuition. So the first one, training and support. Conference fees, IEP preparation fees, advocacy training, pre-vocational training, job training, items that is covered under this category. Now, the conference fees does not have to always be for the individual. It could be mom wants to go to a conference on, say, Down syndrome or autism. LISS will cover it. The things that they won't cover is food, lodging, and travel. And required documents for training and supports include the following. So you have your invoice, if it's an independent contractor, what you would need, and then the W-9. Tuition for post-secondary academic and vocational services. And so we've been hearing a lot from families where this category was lenient in the past. However, if you notice, it says tuition for post-secondary academic, which would be university or colleges. And so if your child is going to a private school, in itself, where they have not graduated yet, that LISS will not cover it. And so the required documents is your invoice and your W-9. So if they're going to Prince George Community College, you turn in your invoice and then a W-9 from Prince George Community College. Tutoring services was another category that was lenient in the past. However, if you see, it's tutoring for post-secondary academic or vocational services. And so if your loved one is a child that may need tutoring and they're in high school, unfortunately, the LISS program cannot pay for tutoring services. It must be for post-secondary academics. Another category, learning items. So flashcards, some books in reference to disability can be doing counting and stuff like that. It cannot be a toy. If the invoice shows it's a toy, it will be a denial. And so required documents, invoice and a W-9, but remember, if you're ordering it online, then you don't need a W-9. You can just print out your shopping cart and that's your required document. Home modifications, we've done a lot of home modifications, especially fences. And so the request for home modification is only from the homeowners. If you are a renter, you cannot request this category. And so the state has done a lot of home modifications for renters, and then the person was eventually kicked out. And so, and then the family needed additional. So this particular category, you have to be the homeowner. And so it tells the required documents that are needed, an invoice, and it has to be by a licensed person. This can't be a family member or someone you know to do this particular service. It must be licensed. So they're doing ramps, grab bars, the fences, all those sort of things. And then it tells the documents that you need, the W-9 from that business and proof of home ownership. Identification services is a part of LISS, IDs, fingerprints. And so this category is reimbursement only, because usually when you go and get a state ID, you have to purchase it right then and there. And then it tells the required documents. This is next one, recreational services, camp, and into non-therapeutic services. This is a big category. And so let's go over camp. It has a definition of camp. LISS covers day service and overnight services. Camp services, because usually it's during the summer, is your only category that goes past the fiscal year. And so it goes up to August the 31st. Your child can stay in camp up to August 31st. However, it must meet one of these three categories. Accredited by Maryland or out-of-state Department of Education, accredited by the American Camp Association, or approved by Maryland DDA or state government entity as camps. And so what happens is it is a lot of businesses that will say they're camp. They may be a karate camps. A lot of our faith-based churches will have camp facilities, but they do not have one of these three categories. And so they may be like, well, we're a charity organization, we're a nonprofit organization. That does not qualify for the camp category where the services could be extended to August 31st if they do not have any of these three categories. And then it tells the documents that we would need in order to process camp. And so if they do not have one of the three accreditations, it will be considered community integration. And so this is for non-therapeutic services. And basically, for a while, DDA would not allow recreational services to be a part of LISS. It was considered a luxury. And we had a lot of families that advocated on their child, that felt socialization skills was important, and the recreation services was a big piece of that. And so DDA has approved that community integration can be part of LISS. And so if you want your child to go to karate class, swim class, dance class, art class, that is acceptable. You just need to remember it must be able to identify with the individual. So a recreational activity that is for the general public can't be part of LISS. So you can't put in, for example, movie tickets, because anybody can use the movie tickets. But you can sign your child up for a dance class, a cheerleader camp class. Also, gym membership. You can do a gym membership for your loved one and +1. And so if that +1 may be the spouse or the support staff, we will pay for that too. And so the documents that are needed would be your invoice, and it must show the dates of services, and then a W-9. And this category usually is never probably online because that category is community integration. DDA wants individuals with disabilities to be out active in the community, receiving services just like you and I. So usually a W-9 is needed. The other category can be a therapeutic summer program. And so sometimes you will have summer programs that provide specific therapeutic services, medical, behavior, psychological, speech therapy, occupational therapy. And so that person could be part of that program. And so we would need an invoice, the dates of services, the W-9, and the invoice must indicate the license number for the medical and mental health professional license. And so transportation is a part of LISS, Metro Access, taxi voucher, Uber, Lyft, scooters, wheelchairs, things like this could be part of your LISS category. And then again, it tells the required items. Now, if you're using ride share such as Uber and Lyft, they are only reimbursable services. Uber and Lyft, you have to leave a credit card on file with them, and so the LISS provider will not leave their credit card on file for it to be used. Wellness and behavior services, medical and dental services, therapeutic. And so with the behavior, it'll have what is considered in the required documents, medical and dental, dietitian and nutrition feeding program, protective undergarments, disposable gloves, catheters, dental exams, visions, all could be under LISS. Now, when you get to medical stuff, the requirement becomes a little more. And so it has to be a licensed person, your invoice, your W-9, proof of coverage or non-coverage. And so parents will get scared about this particular requirement. This is where I said Google is your friend again. So for example, if you have Kaiser, you will Google Kaiser and put proof of coverage. And so you're going to want proof of coverage or explanation of benefits, say for speech. And then it will show you what Kaiser cover. Print that out. You don't have to go and ask for any documents from them. You can go online and print that information out. And then you also have to have a letter of recommendation. Therapeutic services are covered under LISS, and they'll have the required documents, same thing for that. And so I'm going to stop sharing and we're going to go back to our screen, a PowerPoint presentation.
Can I have a question?
Sure.
Oh, okay. You say need from a doctor to do two things. One is a diagnosis, another is a recommendation letter. Is that true?
The proof of developmental or intellectual disability is a required document for whatever you request. The letter of recommendation is based on what you required. So requesting. So if one of the categories was like assistive technology, you was requesting a computer, you don't need a professional recommendation. And so you got to follow what the guidebook says of the required documents.
So do you, can we ask a doctor, put the two in one, like a one letter, include the diagnosis and the recommendation put together? Or need a separate?
You need it separate.
Oh. And also you mentioned need a provider, like a vendor to buy the item or service. You need two things. One is invoice, another is W-9, right?
Okay, so families get to pick and choose what they want. So all the things that I went over, the LISS provider will not make a selection for you. Families get to choose what they want in those particular categories, and it cannot exceed $2,000. And so once you make that choice, you turn in the documents for that particular category. And my whole questions, because I want to finish the presentation, we almost done, and then I'm gonna open it up for questions. So the next items is, we went over all of those items. And so because you're in, we went over all of these items that you could possibly choose. Because you're in round 2, this program started July the 1st, 2022. You may have already purchased some of these items. And so DDA gives you the option of reimbursement. So let's go to the next page. So reimbursement. Reimbursement is an item that you can request for the fiscal year. And so it's July the 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2023, unless it is camp, will go under this. Required documents for reimbursement is lengthy. I tell families, don't put in reimbursement if you haven't already purchased something, because we don't want you to have added expenses and then your child does not meet the qualifications of LISS. And so it is certain documents that's going to be required. Proof of payment. You have to have the invoice showing you paid. You will have to show your credit card or bank statement that you made that payment. Cash is not an option unless it's from like a cash app or vendor. It has to have a paper trail. Families will have to fill out the W-9. And so and then all the documents that was requested for the categories that we just reviewed over. So you have to show in proof of that particular requested items, plus you must show that the proof of payment and your invoices. Next page. Items that LISS do not cover. And so experimental treatments, LISS will not cover. Housing adaptation or improvement of houses for square footage. Modifications in reference to restrict an individual. And so locks for their doors on the outside, we will not pay for LISS. Cash, case management, any gift cards, housing assistance, presents. And so you can't be like, oh, well, this is Christmas, I need this for Christmas, his birthday. No. Toys. So everything must be therapeutic purposes. And so sometimes this get tricky with families. They'll go to Walmart, see an item and it's cheaper versus they go to an adaptive site and it's more expensive. And so they want to stretch the dollars for the $2,000, and then they will get a denial because that Walmart version of that toy is just a toy, versus if you go to an adaptive site and it's therapeutic. The reality is sometimes the therapeutic items may look the same, but they may be made different. And when you print it out, usually they have a definition of this is used for sensory or motor purposes. They'll tell you. Vacations, vehicles, items, tickets, fines, and LISS will not cover items where we purchase membership. Now, we've had families put in for Costco stuff or Sam's stuff and sent their membership number for us to purchase it online, but we cannot make a purchase, membership purchase for you. Next. This is the one-page application you must fill out when you are putting in your LISS request. So if you look up at the top, it will say applicant's information, and then they put specifically the applicant is the individual with the developmental or intellectual disability. We have a lot of applications that have the family information. And when families have called, we couldn't find the name, especially if it was a different name.
How
And
you
then we later
categorize
found
that,
out,
for-
can you mute yourself, Angela? Angela, can you mute yourself? Then we find out later that it was in the family's name. And so this is for your loved one that is applying for LISS. The next category is service information. And they tell you, please do not write C attachment. This section must be completed. So number one is the service item requested. So was it adaptive equipment, whether it's camp, what the items that I went over with you in the guidebook, you put in this section, the name of the vendor. So if it's an Apple, you know, this is where the county department will know who to go to purchase the item. And so if it's on the website, www, whatever it is. Number three, a licensed professional, if applicable. Every number does not necessarily need to be filled out. Because if you're buying a computer, or if we're purchasing a computer, a licensed professional is not recommended. Usually this category is for medical and for home modification. The telephone number of who we would be contacting if we had any questions for the vendor, not yours, but for the vendor. The total amount you are requesting. Number 6 is dates of services. This may not be applicable because if you're purchasing online for something one time, you wouldn't put anything in there. But if you're requesting respite or childcare, you would. Number 7 is daily hourly rate. And so this is specific for if somebody's providing services. Reason for the services must be filled out. This is a one sentence. So if you're putting in communicate, say the computer, it may be to increase his communication skills. If you're doing the recreation, increase his social skills. Do not give us a paragraph. Just put one sentence in that particular block. You have 3 spaces to make a request. If you are requesting more items, you have to fill out another application. Do not put C attachment. Then you fill it out. It can be the applicant's signature. If not, it could be the parent. The most important part is the person designated to receive the emails and the phone calls. And so if this item is blank, or we have some family put the kids' information in there, we cannot talk to you. Due to confidentiality, whoever is in this section is who we communicate with. And so this is the application you fill out for when you're requesting all of those items or considering those items. Next page. Communication. I know a lot of times you want to call us or you want to email us, but I gotta be honest, due to confidentiality, we do not know who is on the other end of that phone or email. And so we ask that you not be calling or emailing for status updates. Normally, the LISS process takes 90 days to complete once you turn in all of your documents. And so if that 90 days have not passed, we are asking no calls, no emails, fax, all those things. Next. So this is what I'm going to have to, I would say probably say, we are asking families to be patient, to be kind. The staff that is there is really trying to process your request as quickly as possible. It is a process. It takes 90 business days. And so I know you want to have an update, but the reality is staff needs to be processing and ordering your request. And so we have had sometimes some angry families that have a tendency to maybe scare some of our newer staff away. And so we just like for you to know they're here. They want to process your request. Remember, it was 1,450 LISS requests for round 2 only. Next page. And so this is our information. When you are mailing stuff, please put it attention to the LISS department so it can go to them right away versus it goes to the general mailing process. And so that is it for our presentation. I want to thank everyone and I want to open it up for questions. You can.
So I just want to continue ask you last question was what is the W-9?
The W-9 is the tax form, the state form, and it is online.
So need to ask the vendor to provide this to us for
Yes.
you?
It's online. It's on our website.
Oh, on your website. On
yes.
your website, that means you have the form sent to me, or I ask the vendor to fill it up, then submit back to you like that?
Yes. So
how can I get a W-9?
Hi, I have a question. Ms. Coates, we can't hear you. You're on mute.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right, I'm going to ask, because we have a lot of families that have a lot of questions. And so I'm going to ask that you limit it to one question, please.
Okay, so my one question, I have 3, but I'll pick one. So my one question is, the adaptive equipment that I would like to purchase for my son that has been recommended by his PT at school costs $2,995. So my question is, can I still submit the online invoice and have me pay the difference, or does it have to equal up to $2,000?
It has to equal up to $2,000. If we put in $2,000 and 1 penny, it rejects it. And so we cannot go over $2,000.
Okay, so then that means I have to find something else then.
You would have to find something else, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Ashana, it was some questions in the chat. Did you want to go over those?
Yes, I do. So I'm gonna go to the top. People were asking, is the 4401 Nicole Drive address the correct address to send the documents to?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see. There's a question that says, in terms of the not eligible applicants, could someone clarify if this would include children in the PEP program?
So whoever asked that, tell me what the initials for the program is. You can go to the next one and then they can come on.
Okay. Is the proof of identity a copy or original?
Copy. Everyone always please keep your originals and we'll do the copy. Lisa, can you unmute yourself?
Yes. My question is, if let's say someone submitted an application with 6 different items, but then it turns out they didn't follow the directions and one of the items is not approved, would you then go ahead and purchase the other 5 items, or does the entire application get rejected?
It varies. If all the items were related to, say, a computer and software, usually we go back to the family because then they may be wanting to make a different request. versus they may have did a computer request and then a camp, and so the camp will be approved. If something is going to be denied, we send an email to the person that did the application and put in their email information. They have 5 days to turn in those missing documents. If they do not turn in missing documents, then they will get a denial letter. Once you receive a denial letter, I tell families that is not the end. We can reopen the case once we receive all your necessary documents and funding is still available. The way the LISS program works is DDA did a random drawing. They gave us the names of the kids to serve. When we put stuff into DDA's system and someone receives a denial, it opens the case open. It opens the LISS case for the next person on the list. So a family could spend the money. And so we want you to be mindful of your time frame, especially round 2 families, where round 1 families had a longer time frame. Because the program ends June 30th, you have a shorter time frame.
Okay, so they could cross off the item that was denied and resubmit the application and potentially get approved for that if
Right.
there's funding available.
Right, and if a family makes a change, that's not a problem. They just have to resubmit the LISS application and then whatever the item that they want that was required for that document. We have another hand up. Zalfa?
Yes. Yes, that's me.
Hello, how can I
Hello.
help you?
Yes, my son is denied in this round. I have to submit again his application, or still he's in waiting list?
And so it depends on what he was denied for. If he was denied for not turning in something, we can reopen the case.
No, just because of the high volume of application. Yeah.
And so if it was denied, then he's currently on the wait list. And
Okay.
so a child's name may come up before the end of the fiscal year, or otherwise, I would say when DDA opens up the LISS program for round 1, FY 24, I encourage families to apply again. Whether you got LISS or not, every family will be open to apply again. You start off fresh every fiscal year. And so May the 1st is the opening date for DDA's random drawing. It is an online process that you will have to apply and submit your child's name.
Okay, thank you.
All right, you have another question, Ashana?
Yes. This one says that their son's IEP his next meeting isn't until next month, mid-March. Can they submit an IEP that was finalized in February 2022?
Right, it could be 3 years old. So you can submit an older IEP.
Okay. The next one says, will this record be uploaded to the Facebook page?
It will.
Okay.
I
How
don't
can-
know how to make the hand up.
Go on, Ashana.
Raise hand. How do I?
How can we get a copy of our DDA letter?
And so if you applied for DDA services, whatever year it was, you can, you will be able to contact them directly and ask for a copy if you've done it. Now you have to have applied for services. It's not an automatic process. You had to apply for DDA services. And so if you lost your original letter, you can contact them and ask them for it.
I have a question in regards to the DDA. What if you have not applied for services because you've been on the wait list for years. Does that become eligible?
Yes, as long as you have your wait list letter.
Okay, thank you.
What is the DDA services are?
All right, Ashana, if you could finish the questions.
Okay.
The-
The next one, would assessments from speech pathologists or occupational therapists be considered? Like, can you get a diagnosis from them?
You may.
The next one is the guidebook available to parent.
The guidebook is on our website. And so the guidebook that I was using was the one that I went to our website and pulled, and we have it on English and Spanish.
Okay. Who do we contact to get clarification on documentation relating to reimbursement of independent contractors for respite care?
And so you need to, I would say, the purpose of this session is to show how you use your guidebook. And so we are asking that families actually use the guidebook and follow that category. And so if you're trying to get reimbursement for whatever category, go to that category to see which documents you have. And so the staff wouldn't be available to help you through the entire process. You have to remember is we've had for round 2 alone is 1,450 cases. And so the staff will not be available for individualized sessions. Claudia, I can't hear you. While she's working on that, Ashana, next question.
Okay. Is a trampoline considered a tool?
No, it's not. And if you go back to the adaptive session category, it has a special item for trampolines and the safety requirement that is needed a part of that. And so make sure you look at it and follow it. And so just don't order a trampoline. You got to follow what DDA has said.
Okay.
Claudia, I still can't hear you. All right, Ashana.
Okay, the next one is I applied for both of my boys. One got a congratulations letter. My question is, after I turn in the documents, if he was denied, is it possible to transfer the grant to the other sibling?
No, DDA does a random drawing. And so unfortunately, every family member may not be selected, and they put it in order in reference to when we can process. And so we cannot process another child. You have to wait until a child's name come off the list.
The next one is, how do I show a paper trail for Lyft ride services?
And so the Lyft will or Uber is a reimbursement services, and so you will have to go to the account and show and pull up that you made your payment, and then show proof from your credit card or your banking account that you actually did the payment. And so your invoice is you going to your account of that particular request.
Okay. The next one says, if we buy shoes with Velcro straps, the shoe listing must stay adaptive. It cannot just be a regular shoe that has Velcro straps. Please clarify the difference.
Those was the good old days. And so clothing and shoes have to show that they are adaptive. When you go to the Velcro are examples. And so first and foremost, it must meet the definition before you go to any examples in the guidebook.
The next question says, on the service eligibility application, do we have to put the applicant's social security number?
You have to put Either this, I think it requests Social Security or your medical, the kid's medical assistance number.
The next one says, so something like a beanbag chair, we would have to purchase it from an adaptive site, but not a site like Amazon.
Correct. If you're purchasing stuff from Amazon, Walmart, Target, it still has to put down, you still have to show that it's adaptive. And more than likely, when you go to those generic places like Amazon or Walmart, it does not show it's adaptive.
The next question is, do we have to submit the whole IEP or the first 2 pages?
Great question. If the first page shows official diagnosis, that is all I need. So if it shows that the individual has intellectual disability or autism, that is it. When it shows that it has other health impairments, I need the whole, where I need to look at something that says what the kid's diagnosis is, or if it says developmental delay.
Okay. My child already started the swimming classes. I am paying already. Do I receive a reimbursement from LISS?
And so it's not, remember, it's not automatically. You can put in the request for reimbursement. And so some of the services may have been, I need reimbursement from this time to this, and then from March to June, I want you to pay the organization directly. And so you could put in multiple requests for the same thing.
Okay. What if the service is over $2K, but you are filing for reimbursement? Can you refund the parent up to $2K, especially if it was already purchased?
Yes.
Okay. What's the Facebook page name?
And so go to our website for Maryland Community Connection and hit our Facebook link. It is other Facebooks that are out there. And this is why I say, go to our official site. And so it may appear that it's Maryland Community Connection or says it's Maryland Community Connection. It is not. You need to go to our official website and then click on our Facebook.
Okay. We want to use LISS for speech therapy sessions. Do I need to show I already submitted the cost of speech to my health insurance before receiving LISS for the outstanding balance that health insurance would not cover?
No, you need to show the medical recommendation, the letter of recommendation. You need to show that what your insurance would cover or not. Remember I said go online, pull that information and turn that in.
Okay, the next question says, my daughter has a diagnosis of ADHD. It doesn't seem that she is eligible for the LISS program. Is that true?
That will be true unless the child is on DDA's wait list. And so anytime I would tell families that have some question in reference to your child's disability, I encourage them to apply for DDA services, because if you have that wait list letter, that is what you could use for disability. And DDA does have other programs such as supports only for individuals that may have other types of disability. It's a small program, but if you're on the wait list, you get your DDA letter, this wait list, that is the document you will use moving forward.
Okay. The next question says, what is a medical assistance number if I don't want to put down a social security number?
That's where you apply for medical assistance through the state, and you will have a number. Otherwise, you will have to. Unfortunately, we've had families apply for different regions, and that is where the state does track that this child is only eligible for one region.
The next one is the therapeutic services. Their providers are out of network due to local network deficiency. Could they qualify anyway?
Absolutely.
Um,
And sometimes in the guidebook, you will see that it's for a Maryland licensed professional, and DDA has been open because we are part of the DMV area, and it's so many locations that may be closer. Our Eastern Shore families are closer to Delaware, and sometimes they may have professionals that they use for their family in Delaware. And so we would document due to location, transportation, or even the specialization that they have to go out of the state. We in Prince George County, we use Virginia, we use DC, and so sometimes it's not always a Maryland residence that we use.
The next question is Children's or Hopkins to receive the ASD diagnosis with the possibility of ASD diagnosis was mentioned on the ADHD diagnosis.
And so when we need a official diagnosis. And so when it says it appears that the kid may have, and they have not given official diagnosis with that code, then we would not be able to accept that. And so we need you to get something from the doctor that gives a official diagnosis.
Will tutoring ever be considered for younger children in the future?
It is part of the DDA regulations at this time, and it will have to be a change in the regulations to accommodate that. DDA has been hearing families' concerns about tutoring and tuition assistance for kids, especially with the outbreak of COVID and the need for this to be available to the younger kids also. And so they are aware of that. However, they cannot change it without changing the regulations at this time. And so I do know it has been talk about changing some of the regulations, but I would say it will not happen this fiscal year, and the likelihood of next fiscal year, it would not. It's not going to happen. I do think they'll be working on it, but it can't be changed at this point.
If funding decisions are not made until May, many of our summer programs are full by the time they get notified in August, or we are almost done. It seems they better apply much earlier, like round one, if they cannot afford to pay up front, correct?
Well, we have round two families that we are still waiting for documents. And so I'm going to say when you turn in your documents, stuff is being processed as you turn in all of your documents. We are emailing families to say, please turn in this, please turn in that. And so without all your documents turned in, is just like having nothing. LISS is all or nothing. If you miss one document, it's really a denial. And so we just want to make sure everyone follows the guidebook and turn in all of their documents like ASAP and not wait. And so if you have a stuff that is time sensitive, it's important that you get it in now. Everybody knows the deadline is February the 27th. Families that wait for the deadline or the day before the deadline is in a mad rush, and we have a stack of documents versus now the staff could process that information. Do you have another question?
The last one on here that I can see is, can I screen share my application page? It's all filled out, but I want to ask one specific question about accuracy.
Unfortunately, due to confidentiality, we cannot discuss an individual case at a public forum.
Oh, but sorry, that's my question, but I already blocked out all the confidential information. So it's just showing pieces that are not confidential, that I'm comfortable sharing publicly.
If you want to stay on afterwards, we could do it, but I would not be able to give you feedback.
Okay, I'll stay on if it's possible to show, but I already crossed out and put boxes over our address and phone number, but I'll take all the help I can get. Thank you. I'll stay.
Mrs. Coates, I have a quick question and might have missed what you said because I had another call. You said something about the deadline on February 27th. If we hand delivered the package before the deadline, let's say next week, would there be somebody over there to go over, make sure we have provided everything that's required?
No, there'll be staff to take the package. However, there will not be staff to review the package at that moment. Once you turn it in, it will be given up to a staff to do official processing. And so we used to do that. And then when we went to officially process everything, then we noticed that the person was in the waiver, or it's certain things that we have to go into DDA's computer services to look up. And so we won't have that access right then and there when you turn it in. So you will have to turn in the documents, let them process. It could take up to 90 days, but usually if a family is turning in documents right now, we're processing right now. On February 26 and 27, where we'll have hundreds of documents all at once, you probably will have that entire 90 days to wait.
So to follow up with that, if once it's being processed, if there's something missing or you need more information, do you deny the package or do you reach out to get clarification?
You get an email, 5 days to turn it in. If you don't turn it in within 5 days, it will be officially denied. Families do have appeal rights. I would say when you go to appeal, usually the state is kicking you back to say, please work with the provider and turn in the necessary documents, because the appeal process is about, did the LISS provider do something wrong in your denial? And so if you was denied because you didn't turn in documents, it wasn't that something was done wrong, it was you didn't turn in all of your documents. And so remember I said we'll open up the case. Once you turn in all your documents, as long as funds are still available, we can process it.
Thank you so much.
All right, so it's 11:30. Time is up. I want to thank everyone.
I put a question in the chat and it wasn't asked. Can I ask it real quick?
Sure.
I know you can't talk about stuff on the phone because of privacy, but if we call you and say, is our application complete and is it being considered? Can you answer that question?
No, we cannot. This is what I want families to think about. The staff either process and makes purchases, or they're on the phone and researching your case. They can't do both. And so I have prioritized our staff. What I want them to do is process the cases and make the purchases. Remember, round 2 alone was 1,450 cases. We cannot talk to families about, do you have this? Do you have that? Can we turn in this? Those questions takes up somebody's time and takes them away from processing. And so it has to be, the focus is on processing and purchasing. If it is past the 90 days after you turned in your last documents, call us. But if it's not past those 90 days, we will not accept those calls.
I just have a quick question. Is this going to be available, the recording? I came in late. I couldn't find the passcode. On Facebook or on your website?
It'll be on our website.
Okay, thank you.
Still want to clear original question about W9 because when you speak, we don't hear you. So I don't know your answer. I wanted
W9.
yeah, it's still W9. Is it W9 came from your place, then send to the vendor to fill up, then send.
So we do not send out W9s to vendors. This is the form that you would need to send to your vendor to get and turn in the documents. Now, we realize some vendors, because of confidentiality, do not want you to have their social security number or tax number. And so they may want to send it directly to us. That is acceptable as long as they put the kids' information. We receive a whole bunch of W9s and we don't know who it belongs to. And so a vendor will fill out a W9, their business, and turn it in. And we look at it and we're like, who's this go to? Which kid does it go to? And we don't have it, we don't know, and it just goes in a pile. So long as if they want to turn it in directly to us, acceptable, but identify which kid folder this is for.
I know. I wanted to know, is this, I ask them to give you or me W9 by themselves, they can find.
All right, so we do have to shut it down. I thank everyone for the participation.
I still don't know. I still don't know. I wanted to.
And so,
I still don't know, do they have the W form by themselves or I have to provide it to them?
You have to provide it to them.
I just sent a link.
Where I can get it?
In the chat room, someone has sent the W9 form, and the W9 is on our website under the list for the vendors. I am going to thank y'all so much. I hope this is enough to get you started and get you to fill out all the necessary documents and paperwork and get it to us as soon as possible so staff can start processing now before the mad rush of the end of the month. And so thank you so much and have a good day. Please join us on our Facebook so you can have as much information about LISS.
Ms. Coates, can I please screen share? I just have one targeted question. I have the application filled out. I just need one clarification.
Sylvia said they had a question.
Yes, can I please screen share?
I made you co-host.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. All right. Well, let's do this. Okay. So do you see on number 5? Yes. I have listed 3,200. So based on this Zoom, it looks like I should not write something over 2,000. It should be just 2,000 max, correct?
2,000 for end of fiscal year. Yes.
For end of fiscal year. Okay.
Yes. Are you requesting us to pay for the treatment center, or you're requesting reimbursement?
I've already paid them, but I've already paid for their services. It's just that I didn't realize that you can't put a number over 2,000. So I just want to make sure that I don't want
the services requested is speech therapy and reimbursement, and so the documents you need is different.
Okay, well, I want the money to be paid directly to TTLC. They've not been paid yet, so it would be pay the vendor.
Okay, then that's fine.
Okay. So if I pay the vendor, does number 5 need to just say 2,000? It cannot go over 2,000. I assume.
It cannot go over 2,000.
Okay, that's all the clarification I needed. And then down here, my son's only 5. Do I need to have him sign, or can I just type in his name?
No, that's fine.
That's fine. Okay. All right. So just my signature. Okay. And that's all I needed. Thank you very much.
All right. Have a good one.
You too. Okay. All right. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
All right.